If you're looking to build a powerful, explosive lower body as an athlete, I'm going to be sharing with you my top 5 exercises that we use with any athlete. It could be basketball, baseball, sprinter, rugby, football. It doesn't matter. These are going to work for your sport. So in today's video, I'm going to break down these 5 videos, share why they work, how to do them correctly, and some bonus points on them as well. If you want more videos to help you improve your performance, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more training videos. Let's get into this. So the first exercise that we're going to get into is an Olympic lift variation. And there's a reason why they're in almost every single strength and conditioning program out there, and it's because they work. The hang power clean has a great transfer into sprint and jump performance, which are crucial for athletes. And that's because it improves something called your rate of force development. So how quickly and how much force you can generate in a very short amount of time, which is crucial for explosiveness. It also involves a rapid triple extension of the hip, knees, and ankles, which is what you're gonna see when jumping and sprinting, which is why it carries over so well. Another almost hidden benefit that you get with Olympic lift variations such as the hang power clean that you don't necessarily get with other types of exercises is that you are rapidly accelerating, decelerating, and absorbing force and then having to redirect it again, which is going to be very similar for my contact sport athletes when you have to go into contact and make tackles or break through tackles, which is why it's an awesome exercise for athletes. With the hang power clean, you want to use a heavy to or moderate to heavy load. Okay, that is where you're going to get the most amount of power output. So roughly around 75 all the way up to maybe 85%, maybe up to 90 for our stronger athletes of your 1 rep max. And that's going to help you maximize the load side and also maintain a very high velocity to achieve peak power output, which is what we want for developing explosiveness. With hang power cleans and all of the movements that I'm going to talk about, a general rule of thumb for sets and reps is going to be 3 to 5 reps, 3 to 5 sets, 3 to 5 minutes of rest. Very simple. 3 to 5, 3 to 5, 3 to 5. So you can remember that anytime you're implementing any sort of power-based or explosive-based training, plyometrics, whatever it is, 3 to 5 across the board, you will be in good hands. Now with the hang power clean, it is a little bit more technical. It is going to be the easiest or least technical, in my opinion, of the Olympic lift variations. When performing the hang power clean, you want to make sure you have a couple of things in check in order to get the best technique and get the most power out of it. And it really starts with your grip. Making sure that we are having a grip. You can use a hook grip or a normal grip. Make sure to point those knuckles down at just about outside of hip width. The next thing that you're going to need to do in order to have an effective transfer of force through the bar is to set your back and to squeeze your lats, almost like you're trying to pull that bar into your hip. That is going to help keep your upper torso a little bit more rigid and help you transfer force easily. Working down, the core is another huge piece of this. Your core is responsible for helping you transfer force throughout the entire body with all athletic-based movements. So we want to have a strong core. Now, when we're going down, we want to go to just about right above the knees. You can go a little bit lower, but typically for most athletes, I recommend just above the knee as the starting point. Now, when you're going down, you don't want to have a slow descent on the way down. If you're just learning, that's fine, but we want to have a rapid descent to that top of the knee position so we can take advantage of something called the stretch shorten cycle, which will help you produce more force, which I'll talk about a little bit later. As you're coming up, you're pulling that bar close to the thighs, trying to keep yourself as vertical as possible before doing essentially an upright row. And then what I tell our athletes is that once we get that bar up high enough, you're almost trying to throw 2 uppercuts with your elbows to then catch the bar as you pull yourself under and then redirect that weight back on up. And that's the hang power clean. The next exercise is a pure plyometric, and it's probably one of the best for developing vertical force or your jump height. And it is a depth to vertical jump. So with the depth to vertical jump, we get a huge improvement in our stretch shorten cycle and our rate of force development. So your stretch shorten cycle is simply, the simplest way I can put it is that when your muscles and tendons get rapidly stretched, they are naturally going to want to come back together. So essentially, if we have a rapid eccentric or rapid stretch of the muscle or tendon, we are going to get to use some free energy on the way up. Okay, so that's why if you ever go really slow down into a squat or slow down into a plyometric, you're not going to be able to jump as high as someone if they go down really quick and come back on up. And that's the same reason why we want to go down very quickly here with the bar and explode on up, because we get a little bit more power out of it. Okay, stretch shorten cycle is a huge thing that plays constantly in your ankles, your hips, in athletic movements when we're sprinting and cutting. Okay, this, like I mentioned, helps you release that stored energy from tendons, which we call our elastic strength. Okay, so plyometrics really work on improving our elastic strength. One thing that I think a lot of athletes get wrong, or maybe they necessarily don't know with the depth jumps, is, and it goes back to the stretch shorten cycle, we want to have a stiff landing. So that doesn't mean your knees are stiff or you're standing straight up when you land, but when you land, you want to try to stop as quickly as you can in your natural jump position if you were just going to do a standing vertical jump. Okay, so we want to land in that natural position, put the brakes on very, very quickly, and try to get out and jump as high as we can with the short amount of ground contact time that we can. Okay, that's going to help you get the most out of that stretch shorten cycle. Now, when progressing the depth to vertical jump, I recommend you start off with a smaller box. Okay, so maybe 6, 12 inches, depending on your current level of plyometric development and experience. You want to start off with a smaller box. The first thing you want to work on is simply jumping higher once you land. Okay, so don't worry about getting off the ground super fast yet. Simply work on producing more power to try to jump as high as you can. Once you've seen an improvement in your jump height, then you can start to work on improving your ground contact time. So getting on and off the ground a lot quicker. Once you've seen an improvement in that, then you're going to start to increase the box height and rinse and repeat the process. The next exercise is one of my favorites. It is a ballistic exercise. It's probably, in my, if I was to argue, I would say it's like one of the most athletic based movements that are in here, because it requires full body coordination and very explosive, rapid extension of and utilizing of muscles. And it is Medball Scoop Tosses. Now, you can do Medball Scoop Tosses for height and or distance, but we have explosive hip extension. Like I mentioned, we have full body coordination and neuromuscular coordination, muscle firing sequence to get the most out of your throws for distance. Another reason this is great is there's follow through. When you can follow through and let everything go, you can turn the regulators off and give it the most amount of power possible, compared to, say, something like a hang power clean where you're having to decelerate a little bit with it. Okay, so with this, typically recommend 6 to 12 pounds. I usually use a standard 10 pounds for all throws when I'm measuring, so I can track progress and distances, so I can try to progress my training with this. With throwing for height, you're going to get more of a vertical component, so you're going to get a little bit more quads out of this as you come straight on up. With throws for distance, you're going to get a more rapid hip extension. You're going to get all the way through, so it's going to be a little bit more horizontal in nature as you're going for distance with this. But these are awesome for athletes to throw into their training program, and they work a different spectrum on the force velocity curve compared to, say, something like a hang power clean, which might be in your peak power or strength speed, where this is going to be over speed, very high velocity, as well as with the plyometrics. The next exercise is one of my favorite, and it's a little bit of a combo. It is a sled push into a sprint. So with this, we're getting some peak power and we're getting true speed work on our power continuum that we're training on. So improve single leg lower body power. It's going to improve ankle strength and stiffness. And when doing these, with the sled, put it at a 50% velocity decrement, meaning that if it takes you, so say the given distance is 20 yards. Say it takes you normally 2 seconds to run a 20-yard sprint. You're gonna continue to add weight on that sled until it takes you 4 seconds to run that 20 yards. Okay, that'll get you at the 50% velocity decrement. You can go between 40 to 60, but I like to keep it simple right in the middle at 50%. So with the distances, typically 10 to 20 yards, keep it short and sweet. Again, this is power, this is not conditioning, this is not anything longer, right? So we don't want it to be too long. We're gonna get huge horizontal force and speed production with using this. So most of the lifts that we're doing in the gym are very vertical in nature, but when we're out on the field and we're out on the court, a lot of things are very lateral and they're very horizontal with how we're having to move our body, and only when we're jumping is it really vertical. Now there is crossover and carryover for both of those, so don't worry, but this is actually some true horizontal force production and speed production. When you're doing this, you also want to make sure that you're taking enough rest. So I like to time myself so I can see my fastest times. And then you can rest minute and a half, maybe even up to 2 minutes before you go into your sprint. And then you take a full rest at the end. That might be 3 minutes or so after that. Again, this is not conditioning. This is pure power output. So we want to rest, make sure our central nervous system is fresh. And the last exercise is trap bar power shrugs. So the trap bar power shrug is a very easy movement that doesn't require the same amount of complexity and neuromuscular coordination as, say, the Olympic lifts. And all you do is grip it and rip it, right? Grab it and try to drive up as fast as you can. So it's very easy for athletes to do, and you still get a very high load with this and a very high velocity to have a good power output with this, okay? So you still get rapid triple extension, you still get the rate of force development, you still have that like neuromuscular coordination that's happening to a degree, maybe not as much over here, but for the lower body it is great since it is so simple, and it's gonna be a little bit less taxing on the body. 3 to 4 sets, 3 to 5 reps. You're literally trying to jump with the bar and shrug at the top. That's as simple as it is. And these are my 5 lower body exercises to help you increase your power and explosiveness. And if you want to see more training tips just like this, make sure to hit the subscribe button, make sure to hit that like button, comment down below. And if you're looking for a training program that utilizes these exercises and explosive power based concepts to help our athletes perform better on the field, check out the links below in the Peak Performance program, and I'll see you in the next video.